Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Discover the 11-Minute Miracle Breathwork Technique for Tapping into Higher Consciousness. Breath Fundamentals to Ignite Physical, Emotional, and Spiritual Well-Being. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really thrilled with you getting to explore one of my favorite transformational practices and really some leading edge innovations in this arena with a true pioneer in this arena. We're going to be talking a lot about the frontiers of breathwork that have very ancient origins and are being proven out by modern science. And we're going to get to explore them with Michael Brian Baker. He is the founder and CEO of the Breath Center, and he's really helping to open up this territory to make it available to the masses and really understand it in a deeper way. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great. Well, I'd love to begin our journey today. We're going to have time with Michael, and I also want to let everybody know up front that we're going to have a brand new program on with Michael called Experience Breathwork Fundamentals for Opening to Higher Consciousness. We'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So a lot of your work is based in sort of more ancient pranayama practices, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of those roots and what what do we really want to take away in a kind of a modern way and has the most value for whatever particular path or lineage that we're a part of?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I also just want to say that, in these modern times, the question arises, does the root or origin teaching or baseline birthing of a particular practice matter? Because we know that over time, any type of body of work, the message becomes somewhat eroded or shifts when it moves into different languages or different skill sets or belief systems. And so in our particular understanding, and this is where many of the different bodies of information or origins around the globe agree, is that before there was breath work, there was pranayama. So it's not necessarily something that's separate. However, in the mid to late 60s and then into the 70s, we were really introducing pranayama to the West in a therapeutic approach through a lot of therapists and counselors, and the impact was huge. Although there was a base understanding that has now created somewhat of a divide, and so the real question that kind of remains is it important to understand the majority of techniques around what we understand in the West is breath work, and are all techniques appropriate for everybody during all seasons? And are there certain practices that should be prepared for or understood, or that there is a body of knowledge that should be explored before the practice is experienced? And so widely in the West, what's happened is that we have taken, and by the way, we're really good at this in the West, we take the best and brightest and most hard-hitting, and we go straight for that and dive in deep because we're very, very busy, and we want it to be big and impactful and quick, and so we can get in and out and get back with our lives. But there are some challenges with that, and there are some retreat centers and educational organizations throughout California and throughout the world that at some point during the 70s actually banned breathwork practices because there were people who were not getting the benefits from them. And so, what we're providing is the full body of breathwork as it was taught by the original stages, what we call the Saptarishis and or Patanjali, because this Eastern form is going to take it back to its very root. And then you'll see that repeated through a lot of the Western techniques and Western literature. The body of work is so beautiful and vast that people begin to understand that depending on their body type, depending on their body mass index, depending on which season it is, that a particular technique and or practice to build up to what we're referring to as active right respiration will tend to create less titration, meaning people, do all of the work, but they don't have the experience and or prepare the body in a way so that it's actually doing what it was intended to do, and so that we can carry it with a level of integrity and knowledge into more places within our lives where it can create more impact.
Yeah, great. So what do you think are the most important fundamentals of pranayama that really all of us should know?
Well, I love the fact that we run if we can maybe pull up this first graphic, you'll see that it's important to take into effect that most of us are kind of running through life, and we do shoulder a lot of responsibility, not only for ourselves but our family, our friends, and our children if we have them, and it's this type of activity requires that we are in action, that we are moving forward, that we are taking action, and we take action with the solar channel within the human body. That is the sympathetic nervous system. And normally this requires a great balance, but if we'll move into this next graphic really quickly, you'll see that what happens is people get really overloaded. And so they're not really getting the same equal amount of rest or sleep or getting into deep REM through the cycles, and moving through the necessary brainwaves, beta, alpha, delta, gamma, geta, or beta, alpha, delta, theta, gamma, or gamma, theta, so that they're actually getting the true rest and digest that they need. And so what happens if we're kind of embedded in what happens, we call this like the body as a battery. And if you look at the top of this graphic here, you'll see that the mind is really carrying a lot of the charge. Okay, a lot of the charge. And deep in the spine, we have a lot of repressed or suppressed energies around the hips, around the sacrum, and also you'll see that people pad a lot when they tend to be what we call sensitives, people that are in our community that are highly sensitive. We're really getting good at feeling again. When people talk about, I want to feel good because they have inflammation or they have insomnia, or a lot of these IBS issues or digestion issues are really because if you run in the sympathetic nervous system too often for too long and you're not getting into that parasympathetic nervous system in an effective way, then there is no balance and all of these physical issues come up. But what we're seeing is that there are practices like the balancing pranayama, which we refer to as Padidhirasana. I'm going to go ahead and I won't, keep pushing some of the Vedic technology or terms, but it works with the deepening points in the lungs and in the armpits. And what we're doing is we're first assessing if the left or right hemisphere of the brain is receiving more oxygen. And that's through the nasal passages. And we also know that this kind of solar to lunar moves like every 20 to 40 minutes, because when we're sleeping at night, you'll know that you'll roll over onto one side. And so the other side is open and it's getting all of the breathing and all of the circulation. And then you turn over because the other system also needs that opening. And so this Padidhirasana allows us to balance those two. And then I'd say the other, 2 or 3 points would be then to create that expansion. First, we achieve balance. So first, there's going to be the attention to where we are in the moment. Some people call that the seat, right? To get seated where we are, to find out if we are either in this sympathetic or parasympathetic, then to balance both of them, then to work either what we call alternative nasal cavity breath. This is Anum Vilom and or Nadi Shodhan. When we talk about Nadi Shodhan, this is the clearing of the meridian system, where we just start going into the nerves. And I joke around with our team all the time and say, oh, is it getting on your nerves? Is this getting on your nerves? And, I'll say, good, you're getting it right. Because when we accelerate an organic process within the physiology of our body, it's going to create a more rapid movement, and that might create some discomfort, right? We always find the greatest shifts outside of our comfort zone. So as we move into these different practices, it's the balancing of the left and right hemisphere. And then we're going to move into cylindrical and or tidal volume and work with expansion. Okay, so we want to create, I don't know if you've looked into this. I know you said that you've done some of the work yourself. You'll know that at 500 milliliters tidal volume, men are only using a very small percentage of the 6 liters of oxygen available in the lungs, and women, I believe, are at like 4.5 or 4.2 liters. And so normally, if you're not working some conscious pranayama and or expanding the chest cavity, then that tidal volume is really all you're getting. Even if you're working cardiovascular exercise, then your capacity is still going to be within that comfort level. So we'll use what we refer to as victory breath, which is known as ujjayi, to create more expansion, oxygenate the system, and then and only then do we start working with what we're going to call bellow, and this is where we start to create some heat. And those are kind of these first steps that a lot of people overlook, and when they get involved in more of these active practices, sometimes they can feel a little wiry or uneasy or push harder into what ends up becoming anxiety. And I think that the real challenge with that is that this should all be really a daily practice through this relationship and this series that we're partnering with Shift on. What we'd like to do is actually just make this a human practice. It shouldn't be so far out or hidden or secret or, this is all just really a human practice. And so we're hoping that people will prepare their body, mind, and emotions and spirit before they move into what we're going to refer to as active and or kriya, which is a lot of the active breaths that people are experiencing in the West.
It's a great overview of a lot of key insights. And I wonder, how does this feed into what you call the 11-minute miracle practice? I think it'd be great to tee that up and then really guide people through it.
Okay, great. So let me run through a couple of these slides again for you. If we can just start with the first one that we left off with. In this practice, we're going to go ahead and just assume that people are kind of on grind, right? And as we look at the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, I'm also going to tie this in with some of the philosophy and the magic. So think of this sympathetic nervous system as one of the serpents that climbs the caduceus to the wings at the top of this stack, what we're going to call Sushumna, the central channel, or what's known as kind or gentle. And then this parasympathetic rest and digest is going to be the left serpent. So sorry, let me make sure that I'm clear about that. We've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is going to be the right, this is the masculine, the solar, and then the parasympathetic is going to be the left. And they call this Ida and Pingala, right? Ida is the feminine, and then Pingala is the masculine. And so if we move to this next graphic, you'll see that in this sympathetic state, when we talk about this dormancy of highest potential, you'll see them talking about higher potentials, right? The highest potential for us to understand is that there is a rapid global shift happening. And by the way, it's not new. It's been happening since the beginning of time. However, within the cycles of what we call the epochs, we are at the lower or farthest away from the galactic center, from our source, in relationship to where the Earth is right now. And so this dormancy of what's called this latent potential that's in the sacrum is really what we've suppressed. And we've suppressed it for a reason, and that was because we were not ready yet to deal with that. And that is okay. That's absolutely okay. But if you resonate with this, and if you're here and this interests you, then you're probably in a place where this particular practice, this 11-minute miracle, might be right for you. So the idea is to create a heat, right? So let's go to this next graphic here. What we're going to do is think about how we move through creating this heat. There are 10 best known methods, okay, through what I'm going to refer to. This is the Bihar School of Yoga, and this is by Swami Satyananda Saraswati, who brings this forward. And we'll talk more about these methods, but the sixth method of awakening is a Pranayama Kriya. So prana, universal force, a yama, to expand, right? Kriya means action. So now we're bringing action to it. And then we're also going to use the term from the wind of the nerves, Vyana Vayu. It affects the wind of the nerves. This is one of the most rapid methods of awakening, okay? So as we move into this 11-minute miracle, we'll go into the next graphic here, please. You'll see that this Pranayama Vyana Vayu is one of the most rapid methods because it can be done laying down. It works very, very rapidly for those who are either in alignment to receive its gift, or for those who have prepared themselves to receive it. And next slide. When we're working with this particular practice, we are creating, I want you to think about what happens when heat is joined with water, right? And the body is primarily made of water. So with certain respiratory practices, we're going to use a bellow effect to create heat in the sacrum. And when heat is created with water, what happens? It rises, right? So as it begins to move upward, we'll move on to this next slide. What happens is when we inhale, okay, when you inhale diaphragmatically, the sacrum moves back, and when it moves back, cerebral spinal fluid drains, right? And then when you exhale, it comes back and cerebral spinal fluid moves back up. And what happens during that practice, when we create a rhythm, is that it's going to create a pump. And when the active chemicals within the cerebral spinal fluid have that heat and that oxygen working in unison with them, you're going to get this discharge towards the brain. And so if you'll go to the next slide, the first time that we looked at this graphic, the vritti, or active whirlpool of that kind of monkey mind, that overacting, that anxiety, and or the overriding of thought, now switches, and the polarity switches, because we're driving that force towards the sacrum, and the mind is actually conquered. They say that pranayama, this sixth method, the byproduct of it is the conquering of the mind. Now you may be saying, but why would I want to do that? And that's because most shift or spiritual practice, to some end, is about finding a place of being in true appreciation and presence for the moment, without any distraction, let alone my own thinking mind distracting me from being here, but also so that I can get into a cohesive heart frequency so that I can open my heart. And remember that when we're in a sympathetic state, parasympathetic state is the only state where it's safe to receive love, where it's safe to receive and open. Because when we're on the grind, we're in fight or flight, it's not a safe time to love. It's not a safe time to receive because we are in action. And so we need to switch that charge and open the heart and be in a place to receive. So we'll move, let's see what our next slide is here. When we do that, when we create that heat, we're going to move from the physical body in through what we're going to call the sheaths or the layers. And when we move through the energy sheath, you are going to feel, many of you, something that feels like a dam breaking and an energy opening and releasing throughout the body, especially if you've never worked with it before. And this can lead to heightened states of awareness. I think we have one more graphic, and this is really the byproduct of that. Many of you know or have seen Alex Gray's work, and I can't share with you enough about what happened to me personally when I experienced this practice with no preparation, no experience, and really not really a lot of guidance afterwards. But the feeling, to get good at feeling again, to understand that we are that which breathes us, not to wax too poetic, but to light up the system, the non-ductory glands, and to alleviate physical discomfort, challenges with sleeping, digestive issues, just about anything that you can possibly imagine can be alleviated within this particular technique, and even more so if you learn about the fundamentals and how to build into it.
Great overview. And is there a practice you want to sort of guide us in now so we can anchor that into our own lives moving forward?
Yeah, I'd love to do it. Let's get a little sound going, and we'll start out. And what you can do is you can lay down. So this is the position for this, and I have to thank the team at the Breath Center and the Anatomy of Awakening for putting this together. This is our Vyana Vayu guideline here. Remember, if you have lower back issues, you're probably going to want to put a pillow underneath your knees because you want your sacrum to be able to lay flat. You're going to want an eye pillow or maybe a scarf to put over your eyes because you don't want to open your eyes during this particular practice. Sometimes you want to have a blanket so that you can stay warm, and it's great to have a journal close by too if you have something to write in, because this experience that you're going to have with us right now could bring you into something quite spectacular, and so to prepare for it can be very, very helpful if you do decide to do so. And then if we move into this next graphic, thank you. So in this next graphic, what you'll see is this active pattern. And today we're going to be actively doing this Vyana Vayu technique for 7 minutes, and then we're going to rest for a little while. So in this practice, we're going to be breathing all through the mouth. Okay. And the reason why we're breathing through the mouth is because we've already prepared with our Padidhira asana, our Chandra or our Surya Badan, and obviously we've done our Anum Vilom, and we've also done our Nadi Shodhan, and we've done all of the continuous practices to prepare to move the heat into concentration at the base of the sacrum, so that what we're doing is we're going to take one breath into the mouth at the belly, and then a breath into the chest, and then out. Do it again till you can do it with me. Just inhale through the mouth and allow the diaphragm to drop. There is no pushing in this. A lot of practices that are going to have you in a very solar way be working with pushing the respiration. That's not what we do. In this case, the drop of the diaphragm is expanding the lungs. So when we drop the diaphragm, Automatically, it's a vacuum bringing oxygen in. That's the first breath. The second breath is then moving that up into the heart and then releasing again into the tummy, up into the chest, and then exhaling. And you'll see in our diagram too, you're laying flat, arms at your side, you're not crossing, you don't want to prop your head up on a pillow or anything like that, because that's going to close off or create a bind in the throat. And so we'll go ahead and we will move into our practice now. Thank you so much for showing those. And then remember, while you're doing this practice, so we'll go ahead and do our disclosure here. Yes, it's a miracle. It's a boon to receive the byproduct of timeless mindfulness practices towards awakening, especially during this period, what we're going through right now. And so it is a miracle to receive it. In this practice, as you're laying down, you could feel heat, you could feel cold. If that happens, you're feeling the adjustment of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. So we're just going to go ahead and lay down. Know that you can feel a little bit of tingling. I'm going to cover the eyes. Make sure you keep them closed. Good. And just get comfortable. Maybe put some headphones in or turn the music up. Make sure your cell phones are off. Good. And we'll just start our practice. Gently inhale through the stomach and into the chest, and then out. Good again, stomach, chest, exhale. Very simple. Gentle inhale into the mouth. Inhale again. And exhale. Good. Continue, you're doing great. Stay in it. And while you're doing it, feel into the depth of where that first breath is going. You want it to be as low in the hips as you can possibly get it. And then when you take that second inhale, bring it all the way up to your chin if you can. Okay, good. Stay with it. Shouldn't be pushing anything at all. Again, just feeling into the body. Sometimes when we do this practice, you can feel a little acid in the mouth. That's the pH changing in the body, the oxygen increasing. And as the O2 leaves the body, the acid's lowering. It sometimes leads people into feeling as though their mouth is a little dry. If indeed that happens to you, just think about the salivary gland and the mouth will automatically moisten back up. Gently, gently, don't push. And for those of you who aren't working as hard, 10% more effort. As you're inhaling, go ahead and image or imagine the oxygenation of every single cell in the body and the movement of anything that's stagnant or needs to be cleared. And on your exhale, just release, let it go. Some of us, we like to do an audible sigh. Allow to become automatic for you. Just listening to my voice. Elongate your inhales. Trust your practice, your way. As you're moving through, remembering how simple sometimes things can actually be. Feeling a little something by now, then you're doing it right. Whether it's cool or heat, little vibration. Sometimes the brain can get very busy too. Just allow the thoughts, witness them and allow them to arise, and then allow them to pass. Not getting rid of anything. It's all an inside job. You're doing great. Allow it to fill you with vital force. Doing great. About halfway through, I'm going to again increase the inhale, the oxygen level by, 5 or 10%. You can do it. Moving through whatever type of patterns or belief systems come up within us, because realizing new higher potentials is always an incredible experience, and you're worth it. Breathe. Stay in it. Connecting with your heart, maybe even just saying to yourself, safe to receive, safe to open, nothing to protect from. We're safe, in the right place at the right time. Feel into it and breathe. So easy. So blessed. Sometimes you can feel a little lightheaded, you're doing it right. Sometimes you can see lights, you're doing it right. Opening, driving the force upward, allowing gravity to carry it. Focusing on oneness. Good. Stay in the practice. If there's any kind of discomfort, it's okay. Breathe through it. We got you. believe in you. You can do it. Accelerating the physical body to the level at which your consciousness is now running at light speed. Breathe. Godspeed. Breathe. You've got this. Again, elongate and expand. 10% more air into the belly. And I'm going to have you on your next in-breath. Take a deep breath in. And just retain it, hold it, but don't struggle at all. Don't struggle just for a little bit here. Just retain that. Maybe pull the muscles of the stomach up a little bit. Good. Good. And go ahead and release and relax. Just let it go. All the work is done. Just open the heart to receive. Just taking a couple minutes to feel. Just do a couple minute active meditation here, moving into the center. The tongue moves to the back of the top teeth and rests on the upper palate. Good. Good. Now, whenever you're ready, you just take a gentle inhale in through the nose. Release. Another gentle inhale in through the nose. And release. Good. And whenever you're ready, you can make your way over onto your right hand side and kind of curl up in a little ball. And stay there for a couple moments if you like, if you feel a lot of shift happening within you, and or you can also make your way back to seated, but please don't do anything quickly. If you did feel movement. And that is a nice little quick introduction to the 11-minute miracle.
What a wonderful guided breathwork process there. Really so nourishing and restorative. Maybe you can share a little bit more about what's the benefit of doing that on a regular basis.
In our school, that particular practice on a regular basis would look like, okay, cleansing physical, any type of physical obstructions within the body or discomfort, inflammation, definitely oxygenating the system, opening and creating digestive fire, so better digestion, balance of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. So again, for me, it's more about being able to receive, and there are love hormones, feel-good hormones that are released when this practice is done properly, and that's basically oxytocin, serotonin, and the dopamine, and also vasopressin. And these will really clear any type of patterns that we have around just kind of not really feeling ourselves, and getting to maybe, it's kind of like a childlike state of wonder, feeling connected again. And I mean, the amount of healing that we've witnessed happen with this particular technique is pretty amazing. So the benefits, of lower blood pressure, we've seen people move off of having to take certain pharmaceuticals. I mean, you would be working directly with your doctor on something like that, but the immediate benefits are, proper oxygenation of the bso, a rest for the brain, and kind of what I call a fine-tuning or a reset for the central nervous system.
That's so powerful. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the power of breathwork for unresolved emotions, traumas, or things that were just kind of emotional residue that we're carrying.
Yeah, so this is the whole thing about what they refer to as Kundalini, the sleeping serpent. They talk about this highest potential that's in the base of the sacrum, and consider, if you will, how we move through life. We move through life either laying down on our backs, or we're sleeping, or we're sitting in a chair, or we're walking forward. That's why a lot of the inversions in the asana portion of physical or karma yoga are so important, because we never are working with freeing or creating an energetic charge to the sacrum or the hips. And so again, throughout our lives, we experience things that are very difficult emotionally, physically, psychologically, and if we're not ready to deal with them, we obviously suppress them or repress them. I mean, it's important to know that certain cultures actually support the suppression of emotional louche, right? You're supposed to keep those things to yourself or process those things yourself. And so we're repressing. And these particular practices are basically creating heat in this dharana and or dhyana fashion, in this focused or concentrated fashion, to literally discharge those once repressed or suppressed emotions. And so a lot of people will be doing the work and they'll say, oh, I don't know if I really liked that because it made me feel like this, or I had this really bad experience and there was a regression. I regressed back to that state. No, what you repressed, you're now experiencing because you weren't ready to feel it then, but you're ready to feel it now, and you're going to let it go permanently rather than it being within the brain plasticity and it becoming a belief system or a thought pattern that gets repeated over and over and over again. And there are many techniques that are Kriya techniques towards the discharge of repressed and suppressed emotional and violation or past experience or whatever, what have you. The important thing to understand is that a lot of times people will have these experiences and maybe they don't get in, meaning it doesn't happen because they are too in their solar channel and the brain doesn't go beta, alpha, delta, theta, gamma, and so they never receive the practice. And then they say as a whole, well, I don't, breath work doesn't do anything for me. I tried that. And that's that equal to that top percentage that comes in, and maybe you experienced it in our practice just now, and boom, the release happens, and they have an experience that's absolutely inexplainable. It's literally like seeing the divine, and the freedom and the healing that comes from it are unmatched. So I think that what we're attempting to do is make this a household name, make this practice, this vast human science. Say, hey, this is human. Let's ground this. Let's begin practicing it in a way, in a right way that it was intended to be shared. And then that way, maybe more people will have the experience of the awakening or the discharge of those things that they're carrying around with them, and experience that shift that they're seeking.
Very, very inspiring. So thank you so much for just sharing just a glimpse of some of the wisdom that you've been pulling together around breathwork and really making these ancient practices so accessible for our modern lives. So I want to spend some time now talking explicitly about your upcoming program, because in my experience, breathwork is probably the single thing that has changed me the most and really propelled my spiritual path and opened up, all kinds of new possibilities and clearing from the old. So it really is a powerful investment to invest in practices that can help you really clear, open, connect with the divine, open up these subtler channels of energy and really higher consciousness. So Michael's going to be teaching a brand new program. It's called Experience Breathwork Fundamentals for Opening to Higher Consciousness, applying Vedic science to heal your emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies. So he's really going to be providing a comprehensive overview. You can find this program laid out in detail at breathworkfundamentalscourse.com, breathworkfundamentalscourse.com, really setting a whole understanding and set of practices that you can build upon for the rest of your life. There's no technical background. You don't have to be a practicing yogi. You can really access the deeper dimensions of this practice in a way that really makes sense, that appeals to our kind of modern intellect and understanding of science, and really is grounded in these ancient truths. So Michael, I'd love for you to share in your own words about the program and really, how do people's lives shift as a result of getting these fundamentals in place in their life? And then I'll read out the module titles, and you can give us a preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this opportunity. I feel like I've been waiting such a long time to bring this and bring it into a contemporary container, but also include it, the kind of these root teachings. We will be starting off with learning to balance the left and right hemisphere of the brain and to assess where we are in each moment. The benefit of this, obviously, is to understand the breadth with which we are either retaining or ingesting or assuming more life force, or spending or spilling life force. And I can say that this is important for getting through the day, or I can also say this is equal to tapping into the fountain of youth and being able to turn back the hands of time, depending on how you're working with it. So there's a lot of benefit to it for sure.
So module 1 is called Unlock the Mysteries of Your Breath for Increased Balance and Awareness.
And this is the piece that we do around the balancing breath. This is Padidhira Asana. And when we work with Padidhira Asana, we are going to learn how to balance and or equalize the system. Remember, the body is organically doing it on its own every 20 to 40 minutes. In this case, we're going to be doing it in 7 to 15 minutes.
Module 2, honor the lunar feminine for emotional well-being and physical relaxation.
So most of us do run very, very solar. And so understanding that, hey, great. But what benefit now? What benefit could we receive if we learned how to work with the lunar and or feminine cycles so that we can trust more, so that we can open more, so that we can be in our circle of power more, so that we can be compassionate, tolerant, present, and know our edges, right? Where we need to pull back and rest, boundaries, needs, desires, and most important, or I see a lot right now in the narrative around manifestation. Remember, manifestation can only happen when we are in a lunar or receptive state, not fight or flight. So in this practice, we'll be working with those techniques to open into that receiving state.
Module 3, practice mindlessness to increase vitality and overall wellness.
So this is kind of interesting because all of our practices are mindfulness practices. So I'm playing around a little bit here, and from a mindless state, what we're going to start doing is working with techniques that move us from beta, alpha, delta, okay, which is where we begin to move into REM, theta and gamma, which are the highest states that we reach during high peaks of meditation, which are also described as samadhi and or nirvana. So as we move through those clearings, then vritti, or the whirlpool or the monkey mind, can be alleviated. We move into awareness, or chit, which is the center of awareness, where we become the witness of that which is. And then the byproduct of that is nirodha. Nirodha means cessation of thought. So it's kind of a play on words there, but we're going to work with that active technique as well.
Module 4, balance your breathing for peace and happiness.
Yeah, the balancing factor now begins to move from the physical body into what we know in Chinese medicine is considered the acupuncture points and or meridians. In Eastern philosophy and or through the Hindu belief system or yogic system, they're called the nadis. They believe there are 72,000 of them. And when we begin to move into the central nervous system, we're kind of moving out of the physical. Think about raising your energy, okay, to a state where the physical body, because it's so dense and because it's tied to gravity, begins to feel almost as if it dissipates. A lot of people will say, well, I couldn't feel my body anymore, right? Because the energy system and that inductance field that's created when we stimulate cerebral spinal fluid begins to take over or is a higher frequency. You feel more of that than you do the physical body. And that's what we're going to practice in this particular module.
Module 5, awaken the soul seed within for clarity and joy.
So this is all about this one-off experience that saints and sages and ascetics and renunciants were privy to for hundreds of years, because they went and they gave all of their earthly attachments away, and they would be led to an experience where this soul seed would begin to germinate and raise. This is also the same story that we hear in alchemy, or that we hear through the epochs, where we're taking base metals and turning them to gold. This relates with Sat Yuga, or the golden age, and this is the highest point in consciousness where we're actually closest to the galactic center and or our energy source. And it's also the highest peak of humanity, where all is joined and in harmony and synchronicity. And we begin to experience this first internally. Again, it has to be an internal experience, you have to own it for yourself. You can't be told about this. You can't just read about it. You have to feel it in your body. And this is when we begin with that.
Module 6, harness the power of the sun for inner illumination.
Okay, and this is all about Pingala, or what we spoke about as this vital force, but in this case, it's not the overactive mind. Okay, it is not fight or flight. What it is begins to be a guided force of that solar channel towards these lower centers within the body, so that we can begin to create this energetic field, what they refer to actually in some cultures as the chariot of ascension, or Merkaba, and so that we can feel this energy force begin to increase around our physical bodies.
Beautiful. Module 7, ignite your nadis to amplify your connection to source.
And this is what we refer to as moving through the chariot of ascension into what they call the quantum. So this quantum field, the shamans will kind of refer to it as Kene, and also in Buddhism, there's the Kene Bardo, which is the Maya, right? The Kai Pacha in the high Andes. If you've studied some of the Kiro work, maybe here on Shift Network, you'll see really, even though they're in different languages, they're all explaining the same thing, and that is that conscious awareness, our awareness is non-local. It's non-local, and it can be projected out into the field where all knowledge and all wisdom is held, and it can be called back inward. And this is where true creative force, or the dance between the individualization or the illusion of the individualization, begins to merge with the whole. And this is module 7.
What a fascinating program, and your passion for these subject areas and weaving together these many threads is really so evident. So thank you for putting it together. Again, folks, you can see it at breathworkfundamentals.course.com, breathworkfundamentals.course.com. And I'll share a few other things about it. So you not only get the 7 90-minute live sessions with Michael, it's going to include interactive time, Q&A time. You'll also get recordings, video, and audio for every session, as well as word-for-word transcripts. There are weekly exercises and practices for inquiry and learning. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses to enhance your journey and really empower you with tools moving forward. There's a 3 audio meditation series with Michael called the Active Breathwork Home Practice Bundle. Michael, you want to share anything about that?
We always start with the basics. That's the best place to start. And so there's the belief system around the non-ductory system. Some of you refer to them as chakras, and you'll associate the first one, which is Muladhara, with a particular key. So there's a frequency or a note with that particular center. And these home practices are set up in 11-minute, 22-minute, and 33-minute, so that you're moving from Muladhara into Svadhisthasana and then into Manipura, or the power center, where we are right now, kind of as a collective. And so we really wanted you to have these home practices so that you can kind of work an 11-minute, 22-minute, or 33-minute practice at home, and get that kind of fine-tuning that you need, or that you're looking for.
Super helpful. And there's an extra bonus that folks get when you sign up by midnight tonight. This is a video teaching from Michael called Better Sleep and the Vagus Nerve, 3-hour breath immersions. So there's a full 3-hour bonus there when you sign up right away. Michael, you want to share about that?
This is one of my favorite pieces right now, because I've had so much enjoyment having people come to me who are really having trouble sleeping, and this particular technique, or these kriyas, what they're doing is that they're moving us from beta, alpha, delta, theta to gamma, which is in that state where brain plasticity is actually rerouted. Okay, so affirmations and or recordings, listening to certain recordings, these all come into play with these practices. And this 3-hour offering that we have for you is going to explain to you, or allow you to identify why you may be having challenges sleeping. And then it's going to give the kind of esoteric outline of what happens during the practice to reset and fine tune and release the cortisol loop that we talked about earlier that creates anxiety that prevents us from really getting a good night's sleep, tapping back into this the parasympathetic nervous system in a way where you'll be amazed at how great you sleep after a very simple practice. Super excited to share this with you all.
That's a great extra reason to sign up right away. So great extra bonus, better sleep in the vagus nerve, 3-hour breath immersion. So it's clearly going to be an incredibly valuable and illuminating program. Michael's got so much expertise, and he's got his whole team of bringing resources to you as well. So we've kept the investment for this program really accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, so you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start June 5th and run Mondays at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. And there's some great testimonials on the page at breathworkfundamentalscourse.com. You'll see people that are just raving about how incredibly valuable it has been studying with Michael and putting these practices into practice in your life. So truly life-changing, groundbreaking, holds a space where you can be vulnerable and feel accepted. So many great testimonials. So again, you can find it all at breathworkfundamentalscourse.com, and you get that special bonus, which is better sleep in the vagus nerve when you sign up by midnight tonight. So Michael, we're at the end of our time together. Just any final thoughts for folks who are considering going further with you? Thank you so much for all your wisdom shared today.
No, thank you. And I'm just excited to get with as many people, find that, either you're working with breath work, but there's still maybe some questions that you have and you really want to, find some answers to those. Or if you're new, I really think that it's a great way to enter the practice on a platform like this that allows you to work through some of the introductory practices and find out truly, they say many paths up the mountain, but different pathways for different people, same destination. We want to talk about your unique blueprint and how you might find the least resistance from point A to Z and be part of your experience of finding yourself in a deeper, more profound way and developing some ease and better self-care practices. And yeah, it's just a wonderful opportunity to practice together and grow together, and we're very thankful to have the opportunity to share it with you.
Great. Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you all for joining. You're warmly welcome to go further with Experienced Breathwork Fundamentals for Opening to Higher Consciousness, and you can do so at breathworkfundamentalscourse.com, and you get that special bonus on the better sleep in the vagus nerve, 3-hour breath immersion when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you all, and thank you, Michael.